for all of the strengths that you have at wide receiver with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen being arguably the best duo in the NFL, there's a major drop-off behind those two guys to the point where you don't know who the third guy is going to be. Is it going to be an undrafted guy like Chad Beebe? Is it going to be a guy who was in the Canadian Football League 2 years ago and Brandon Zylstra? Is it a guy who missed all of last season with injury and Jordan Taylor? There are just a lot of questions beyond who the starters are that I think are going to go a long way in determining what happens to the Vikings this season.
I don't think the wide receiver number 3 discussion in Minnesota will ever disappear. And I haven't lived here very long. Like, I moved here halfway through last season. I'm not a Minnesota native. I didn't grow up a Vikings fan, but that has always been the discussion with this team. Who can the third wide receiver be? Who can catch passes?
It doesn't help, I guess, when the guy you drafted in the first round to be that guy probably won't even make the team this year.
I really liked Laquon Treadwell coming out of Ole Miss.
I did too.
Like, I loved him. So a little background for you, Chad, because obviously you and I don't know each other very well. I grew up in Cleveland. I'm a Browns fan. The Browns drafted a wide receiver in the first round with Treadwell on the board that year. Turns out that guy was actually worse than Treadwell, and Corey Coleman, who is now, I think, on his third team.
Yeah,
I think he's in New York with the Giants. They're trying to replace that Odell Beckham guy Jr. with him. Not going to go well for you. Spoiler alert, guys.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. But I really liked Treadwell. I thought he was going to be a star in the NFL, and he's turned into, like you said, probably not going to make the team.
I made a prediction that year when they drafted him that he was going to be the offensive rookie of the year.
You were wrong.
That's how much I like Laquon Treadwell. Well, because if you look at the
you
numbers,
were wrong. No, you were wrong.
You looked at the number. Oh, I was dead wrong. I will wear that to the day I die. I mean, I have no problem wearing that. But you looked at the numbers that he had in college, and you factored in he's in the SEC. Like, he's going up against Nick Saban's defense every year and performing well against Nick Saban's defense every year.
Like, Ole Miss found a way to beat those really, really unbelievable Alabama teams like 3 years in a row. I'm like, this Laquon Treadwell guy's going to be a stud.
And then you look at the size, the measurements, and all of that, and it was just like, I was sold, and then it was just like the complete opposite.
The other amazing part of Laquon Treadwell, not to get sidetracked here, is that
I'm all for it. It is July 3rd. If we get sidetracked on something football, it's fine.
The amazing thing about him is there are very few players who look as good as he does in starting in April and really going all the way up until the very first preseason game begins.
Yeah.
Training camp every year, whoever the quarterback is, because Lord knows the Vikings have rotated through plenty of them, whoever the quarterback is, going all the way, Sam Bradford, love this Laquon Treadwell guy. Watch out for him. Kirk Cousins gets here. I know you guys have been saying a lot of bad things about Laquon Treadwell, but I'm just telling you from what I've seen, Kirk Cousins, in my 3 weeks here, this number 11 guy is really something. And as soon as the lights come on, different wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing, isn't it? Where someone can look so good throughout OTAs and minicamp and training camp and all those things, and then when it starts to matter, it's like, where'd that guy go? Can we get him back, please? He can help. You can't.
Yeah, it's been like this year after year with him ever since he came into the league. You get excited, and then we keep hearing like, Laquon's turned the corner. Like, this is going to be the year. This is where he's going to make the improvements.
Maybe it's this year.
And yeah, maybe it's this year. And the other thing too that kind of bothered me with Laquon last year is at the end of the season, when the season was over, he was asked about, how he did this year, and he said, "I thought I had a great year. I did everything they wanted me to do."
It's like narrator voice. No, you did not.
It's like Laquon, and that makes me wonder about sort of the self-awareness aspect of, like, obviously he doesn't have to come out and say, "Yeah, I was terrible. I wasn't very good," but I think there's just has to be some level of self-awareness. Like, dude, come on, you got to understand. Like, you got to get better here. This team needs you to be better than what you've been.
I think he's always lacked a little bit in that department. I remember 2 years ago going out there. It was after his not so great rookie season when the first signs of a bust were showing. And I remember being all intimidated to go talk to him. And I went up and, said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes?" He says, "Yeah, sure." And I started to bring up, "You're actually getting some opportunities with the ones. Can you, what has this been like for you?" He's like, "What do you mean? Am I surprised? I deserve to play with the ones. Are you insinuating that I shouldn't be a starter?" And I remember being so taken aback, like, am I talking to the right? This is the guy who did nothing his rookie year, right? I'm talking to the right person.
You're sure you didn't walk up to Stephon Diggs by accident?
It was very, very strange.
Oh my goodness.
What a
Wow.
time. I'm just really glad that talking about the running game took us to Laquon Treadwell. That is the goal. That is basically the end goal of all my Vikings conversations. It's to
Kirk
find
Cousins
my way to
or-
Kirk Cousins or Laquon Treadwell. That is science for
How
me.
do we turn any conversation into Kirk Cousins or Laquon Treadwell?
And honestly, at some point later this summer, before training camp starts, before we really start to ramp things up here on Purple Daily on Score North, we might have that experiment. We might see what topic
How many
you or
different
someone else can
conversations?
throw
Yeah.
at me and how
I
I
like
can get
that.
it to Laquon Treadwell.
Maybe during hot routes, maybe during one of these hot routes, one of these weeks
Yes.
leading up to the season, we just have a bunch of random topics and say, how do we tie this into Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
Or Laquon Treadwell?
I accept the challenge. I want to do that. I'm looking forward to that.